latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Dan. Ugh, keep doing that. The Epstein files. Transparency promised, transparency delivered? Question mark. Pam Bondi, ostensibly, the Department of Justice, she is the Attorney General, offering a memo that the files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of the material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. Fine, nobody's asking for that. Here's the money portion of the memo. The systematic review revealed no incriminating quote-unquote client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of the actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. And that also will be redacted. It leaves one a bit unsatisfied, in part because these were the statements made by Trump administration officials back in February of this year, like Alina Habba, his legal counsel, and the acting U.S. attorney in New Jersey, who said this on Piers Morgan's show.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway, we don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
Well, that's certainly indicated an expectation that more people would be put through the rigors of a criminal prosecution. And now the FBI and DOJ is saying, nope. Nope. Many in MAGA world, not happy. And in part for good reason. Robbie Starbuck, this new DOJ memo admits that there are countless victims of Epstein on video, but no client list or evidence of other rapists they can charge. It claims Epstein wasn't using videos as blackmail. So Epstein was trafficking these underage girls to nobody? Is Pam Bondi serious? No one who has followed this for years believes that everyone who went to Epstein's island was there just to catch some waves and relax. Again, no one believes this for very good reason. What Epstein and his ilk did was pure evil, and this memo attempts to just close the book on it like there's no one else involved. I can't pretend that's okay. The victims deserve better, and the public deserves better. Bondi just made it all worse with this memo. What a terrible, terrible idea it was to write this memo. It's also incredibly insulting to our intelligence. Robbie Starbuck. Yeah, there's some legitimate questions about that. I mean, the same questions that we've been asking for years now, which is, how is it that Epstein, well, first of all, since Epstein killed himself, that's the official ruling now from the Kash Patel-led FBI, Pam Bondi-led DOJ. But how is Ghislaine Maxwell convicted of sex trafficking, which she was, if she wasn't illegally trafficking girls to anyone? Is that what we're to believe? Caroline Levitt questioned about this during her briefing yesterday.
Caroline, the DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable. And I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration.
I'm sorry. I have to cut you off, Caroline. Don't do that. Don't do that. A specific question was asked about this specific case. Don't tell me about, your prosecutions of gangbangers or international drug traffickers or Tren de Aragua. I'm asking about the Epstein case, and you know I am. That was a painful attempt to pivot away. Don't do that. Because there are answers, or there are questions that demand answering, like answers on point. Because this is what Pam Bondi said back in February with John Roberts on Fox News.
Yeah, I saw your appearance at CPAC with Ben and with Ted Cruz. And one of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
And Peter Doocy checked back with Caroline Levitt on the topic.
Right. So the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending
Don't do that. Don't do that. We're having an important conversation on a very specific case involving ostensibly some of the most powerful people on the planet who are still walking around. Because you'll remember there are accusations made specifically in the direction of Prince Andrew, in the direction of former President Bill Clinton, and others. You'll also remember you have victims. Virginia Giuffre is not one of them, unfortunately, but victims who are still alive, like Sarah Ransom, who had this to say on the occasion of Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing several years back.
I have spent the last 17 years in my own prison for what she, Jeffrey, and all the co-conspirators did to me. I was raped repeatedly. I was raped 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. And yes, Ghislaine must die in prison because I've been in hell and back for the last 17 years.
In 27 for me.
I was 10 years old when Liz Stein was being trafficked. I was 10. That is how long the sex trafficking ring has been going on.
One theory about what happened to the information, the incriminating information, alleged incriminating information, if it exists, that pertains to other people not named Epstein or Maxwell, comes from former CIA officer John Kiriakou, who had this to say on Jesse Waters' program.
I'm not blaming the FBI director, Kash Patel, or the deputy director, Dan Bongino. I think that that layer beneath them, that's part of what we like to call the deep state, has taken this bull by the horns, and they've probably destroyed information. Look at what the CIA did in 1975 after Congress ordered that it release all of its files related to an operation called MK Ultra. The director of the CIA went back to headquarters and ordered everything to be destroyed. And in the end, only about 20% of the documents survived. We're still learning about the FBI's operations against Martin Luther King 55 years after the fact. So now we're supposed to believe that everybody's telling the truth, that there were no files, there were no dossiers. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it because I know how these people operate.
For more on this, someone else who knows how these people operate, James Gagliano is a retired FBI supervisory special agent and doctoral candidate in Homeland Security at St. John's University. Also served as the mayor of the village of Cornwall-on-Hudson in New York. Jim, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me, brother. This is definitely a tough case, and you just laid it out, and it's certainly discomforting for a lot of folks, especially the victims. But I think there's a couple of levels of nuance here, and I know you always call me out on nuance, but I'm ready to get into it. I've got some facts, and I've got some things that might satisfy some folks, and I got some things that I think, unfortunately, are going to be left hanging, at least where things stand right now.
Okay, well, I mean, per what you heard from that former CIA agent, do you believe the story that was laid out in the Bondi memo? Why or why not?
I do. And here's why. First of all, this goes back to the old under-promise, overproduce. And I think what happened, and this also applies to FBI Director Kash Patel, Deputy Director of the FBI Dan Bongino, current Attorney General Pam Bondi, and U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, Alina Abba. The problem is they're still in campaign mode. So when Pam Bondi answers John Roberts, and you played the clip at the top of this, and she kind of uses words that, yes, the press secretary can then say, hey, look, she never said there was an Epstein client list. She says, I'm reviewing the papers, but she could have been more clear. And that's why, as an attorney general, Dan, you've got to adhere to precision of language. Now, I'll say this. Having been in the FBI for 25 years, as you mentioned in my bona fides, the old Benjamin Franklin quote applies, right? 3 people can keep a secret when 2 of them are dead. I get it regarding Martin Luther King. I get it regarding the Hoover days. But we are in vastly different modern times. For something like this to happen, and Dan, I'll just leave you with this little piece right here. If the FBI under Comey and Andrew McCabe had known that Donald Trump was on the Epstein client list, as has been alleged by people even like Elon Musk, if you don't think that information would not have been leaked to the press, you're not following along closely enough here. I don't believe in, and I'll just close with this. The Miami Herald is not exactly a conservative bastion of facts and opinion, but there's a really, really good, well-sourced reporter there by the name of Julie K. Brown. She's been following this Epstein deal since before anybody took notice or interest in this. And here's her quote on this. And I want to make sure I give you the exact quote. Those who have worked with the FBI on the case for decades say there is no evidence Epstein kept any ledger or list of clients who were involved with his sex trafficking operation, close quote. Doesn't mean these things didn't happen. Doesn't mean that powerful people did not take advantage of underage girls, a disgusting crime. But maybe there wasn't a list, as has been alleged, and maybe that's the problem, because where it comes to the law, it's not what you know, Dan, it's what you can prove.
I understand that, and that may be the case. I'm open-minded on the topic. I want to go where the facts lead, but the statements that have been made so far are not sufficient for me in terms of answering obvious questions. One of which has been posed by Robbie Starbuck, by me, by lots of people, which is, wait a second, thousands of girls, you heard from one of the victims, endless lines of girls and people exploiting those women, co-conspirators in addition to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. These are the kind of characterizations that are being made. In Bondi's own statement, 10,000 downloaded videos and images of child sex abuse material and so on and so forth. So, and we know from 2019 when the FBI raided Epstein's home in New York City, hidden safes with computer disks and stashes of footage. I need specifics. So you're telling me that all the information recovered, it is only, illegal pornographic images of victims, but it has no information, and there's no ability to take the information and to and what you know about Maxwell and Epstein and everything else that has been investigated and all that has been gathered over these many years, dating back to his first interaction with the law in West Palm and almost 20 years ago, that leads you in any other direction that suggests somebody else or somebody's else should be further investigated, that we're going to continue this. We don't have anything that we think is actionable at the moment, but we have enough that we're going to continue this investigation. I'm telling you what's in the file, and now we're going to take the information in the file and we're going to continue to go where a reasonable prosecutor would with the information they have. Like, for example, Prince Andrew and that catastrophic interview he did on live television, that guy doesn't scream target. Pictures of Bill Clinton getting massaged by a girl who has been identified, that doesn't drive you in any particular direction to scratch below the surface or scratch deeper below the surface than it has been to this point. I just find that very hard to square with the size of the alleged human trafficking, that it's just Maxwell and Epstein and it ends there. That just completely strains the bounds of credulity.
Fair. And now let me be your counterbalance here. So what you're suggesting is that, very important people, and I use that in quotation marks, these high net worth people, these larger than life political figures like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, across Republican and Democrat attorney generals and administrations. You're telling me right now, if there was not information available that could directly link these people to crimes, and Dan, here's the problem.
Well,
a flight manifest is not enough.
I agree.
There has to be
I agree.
more than that.
I agree.
And what famous person is going to consent to, hey, I'm Bill Clinton, God forbid, and I want you to film this, knowing that I want you to film it. Epstein probably filmed himself. Epstein probably enjoyed that and got off on it. Pedophiles do. That's their MO. But unless he did it surreptitiously and those tapes exist, Dan, how do you prove the crime?
No, I'm not. But I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that the answers given so far are not comprehensive enough to address the obvious follow-up questions. And it's like Prince Andrew. Have you heard Melinda Gates answer questions about Bill's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? Has anybody talked to Melinda Gates? Does she know something or a direction that may be interesting? These are powerful people that were on the list. I'm not accusing Bill Gates of anything. I'm not accusing Melinda Gates of knowing something that she doesn't know. I'm just saying there have been enough statements that are put in the public domain that raise reasonable suspicions that deserve follow-up. I'm not trying to smear anybody. I'm not saying because you were a friend of Epstein or because you were on his plane that you're a pedophile or that you raped anybody. But I'm just saying that all of these people, have they all been talked to? Have the victims been talked to and asked questions about, have they been able to identify anybody specifically that demands more follow-up? Maybe you don't have enough evidence to go to court with, but the investigation is ongoing. This is not being characterized as an ongoing investigation. We're not getting more detailed sort of answers, but maybe ultimately Bondi and Cash will come forward with more specific responses to these very legitimate, specific follow-ups. But that's what leaves this as very unsatisfying to me at this point.
Dan, you are the vox populi. You're the voice of the people with that, and I get it. And I feel your outrage. I feel your deep concerns. But again, let's look at the world in the Department of Justice, which has been around for a long time. And let's look at the world pre-Comey stepping out in front of a microphone and basically saying that we investigated Hillary Clinton and all those downloaded emails, classified information on a personal, computing device, and we decided that no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges here. Dan, people lost their minds, not because of the political implications. Yes, they were upset about that. But the Department of Justice and the FBI for eternity has not spoken about ongoing investigations unless and until charges are brought. So your question, Jimmy, have those people been spoken to? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know, but I'm going to caveat it with saying I have to assume that the way that these two institutions and agencies work, that of course that's happened. And again, Dan, if there was a smoking gun there would be charges brought. I was wholly dissatisfied. I feel like I went to a 5-star Michelin restaurant and got a small slider cheeseburger. I was wholly dissatisfied reading the memo. But the bottom line is, I understand that in their positions right now, if there's not enough evidence to bring charges, Dan,
I get
one
it.
of those situations.
I get
Dan
it.
Bongino doesn't have a podcast anymore. He can't just sling and hurl charges.
I agree.
He's got to actually back it up.
I agree. No, it's different. It's more complicated. I agree with that, which is why maybe more radio talk show hosts and podcasts should be more measured than they are. But I digress. But I would say this though. Because I just think this is the reality. Like the idea that you wouldn't have a non-aggression pact. That it's not possible to have a non-aggression pact. If you go after this guy on the list, we're going to go after that guy on the list. I mean, I've been in politics long enough to see non-aggression pacts between the two parties. When you're talking about some of the people who have been named in manifests or rumored, I mean, I'm just saying it's a possibility. I'm not asserting anything.
No.
But I mean, the idea that it's beyond the imagination with the sort of performance we've seen from these law enforcement agencies and intel agencies over the last several years, it's not beyond my imagination.
Not post-Me Too movement, Dan. I feel you. You're making the arguments that at a backyard barbecue with a couple of beers in me, I would make those same arguments. But understanding the way the process works from the inside. And again, I hate to continue to quote Ben Franklin, but it's that 3 people can keep a secret when 2 are dead. Something like this, because everybody loathes pedophilia, at least every sane human being loathes pedophilia. And that's not something like, hey, I know your campaign took funds you weren't entitled to, and I know that your campaign is corrupt. Let's just not bring that up. This is different. If they had the goods, Dan, I'm going to be on the record right now. If they had the goods, they would have brought a sweeping indictment. I just don't believe that the list exists. I believe there's a lot of dangling jumper cables that, yes, they're probably still looking at and trying to figure out a way to tie these people to crimes, but they can't come out and say, yeah, we suspect so-and-so, but we don't have enough to bring charges.
No, I mean, I agree. I understand that. I can see that point. Jim Gagliano, always a good conversation. Appreciate it. Retired FBI supervisory special agent, doctoral candidate in Homeland Security at St. John's University, former mayor of Village of Cornwall-on-Hudson. James Gagliano, thanks so much, as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Always enjoy the chat.
Me too. And Jim joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line. Coming up at 7:37, it is time for our weekly conversation, all things Illinois policy related with WirePoint's